Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all doing well. So in today's video I'm going to be just doing the makeup basics. So just all the basic stuff that you need to know when you're starting out with makeup. So if you're very new to it, sometimes it can be a little bit hard on what to do, where to place things, how to do this and how to do that. So if you guys would like to see what I do today, please keep watching. So the first thing that we want to do before we do any of our makeup is we want to moisturize our skin. This is just so we don't have any dry or flaky patches of our skin. If we have any dry patches on our skin, the foundation will unfortunately cling to all of that and it will just make our skin not look the greatest. So let's just moisturize. Next, I'm just going to put on a little bit of eye cream. Not a lot of people do this. I mean, you don't have to do this, but this is just something that I like to do. The next thing that I'm going to do now is I'm going to prime. So basically a primer is something that will help make your foundation, your concealer, and all that kind of stuff last longer. So the one that I will be using today is the Rimmel London Fix and Protect, and this does have SPF 25 in it, so it's pretty good when you're going out in the sun, considering my foundation does not have any SPF in it. So I'm just going to put some of that on my hand, and then I'm just going to rub that in. Okay, so sometimes I like to wait a couple of minutes before putting on my foundation once I've applied my primer, just so I can let that sink into my skin. So I've waited a couple of minutes now, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in with my foundation. This is the BYS Pure Silk Serum Foundation. The brush I'm going to be using today is a little angled brush. You can use any brush you want. So these are the other brushes that I sometimes might use. This one here is a stippling brush, so it's a duo fiber. It's got like little spiky bits of fiber on top of it. And then this one here, which is just like, it kind of looks like a big fluffy powder brush, and I'll sometimes use that if I want a really quick application. So what I'm going to do, because this is a dropper foundation, I'm just going to apply it all over my brush because I don't really want it going all over my shirt. And then I'm just going to start dotting and placing the foundation all over my skin, just so I can make sure that I get foundation everywhere and there's no uneven parts. Making sure to go down near your neck area. Once you've pretty much covered majority of the areas, I'm just going to now start buffing it in by doing some swirling motions, just making sure that I really buff the foundation in and there is no like streaky patches or anything like that. I like to push the foundation around my hairline as well, just because I don't want there to be like an awkward color or a random line or streak or anything like that where my hairline meets the foundation. Okay, so next up is concealer. So you can probably see that I've left my eye area. I never put foundation around my eye area because if I go in with foundation and then I apply my concealer over top, this is how we can sometimes look a little bit cakey. This is the Maybelline Age Rewind. So I'm just going to turn it up. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go quite close to my under eye area, and I'm just going to put some around here, a little dot on my eyelid, the same on the other side, and a dot on my eyelid. So what I'm doing is kind of like a upside down triangle, and then just going like along my nose and just bringing it upwards. I'm then going to go on the bridge of my nose just to highlight that part. On the top of my lip, a tiny bit on my chin. Sometimes I'll do some around here. You don't have to, but that's just what I do. And then I will put a little bit on my forehead like an arrow. I'm then just going to go in with that same foundation brush. You can use the same brush or you can use a different one. And then I'm just going to start doing some dotting motions, and I'm just going to very gently start blending that out. Okay, so the next thing that I really wanted to quickly mention about concealer is when you are choosing these shades, it should be around 1 to 2 shades lighter than your skin tone. If you're wanting to just conceal maybe some blemishes or imperfections on your skin, try and look for a concealer that is the same shade as what your foundation is. Okay, so we're going to move on to setting our face now with powder. So what this basically does is, especially with a lot of us that have really oily skin, we can't not set our face with powder. Our foundation and everything that we've just applied will crease. It will kind of like slip off. So what I'm using today is the BYS Translucent Setting Powder. Setting powder that is translucent is probably the best way to go for a lot of beginners. Sometimes choosing a powder that has color can be very difficult for us sometimes, so a translucent powder is the best way to go. So what I'm actually going to be using to set my under eye areas is a technique called baking. Now, you do not actually have to do this, but I prefer to do this because I need to under my eyes. So what I'm going to be doing is taking a beauty blender. This is just a sponge that has been run under water, and you can use this to blend out your foundation or concealer. It's completely up to you. But what I'm going to be doing is dipping my sponge. If you're not using a sponge and you're using a brush, it is the exact same concept. So you're taking the brush, you're dunking it in the powder and picking some of that up. What I'm then going to do is kind of pop this underneath my eyes in just the same area that you applied your concealer. And what I'm doing is going back and forth. So I'm really pushing the powder in. If we continue going in one direction, this is how sometimes we can continue to crease. So if we're going back and forth with the powder, we're really pushing it into our skin and making sure that we set that area really well. Then for the rest of my face, I'm just gonna take a really big fluffy brush, just one like this, dipping into that same powder. Doesn't matter how much you pick up, it's up to you. And then I'm just going to dot this all over my face. The reason why I'm dotting is because if I'm doing this, majority of the time it's going to move and shift your foundation around. Okay, so I'm going to leave the face just for a little bit and I'm going to go into my eyes now. So I'm going to start with my eyebrows, and usually if you're doing all of your base products, so your foundation and stuff like that first, majority of the time you're going to get all that product all through your eyebrows. So what I like to take is something called a spoolie, and this is just the eyebrow groomer brush, and what I will do with that is I will brush through my brow hairs, pushing them up and dragging along the brow. To fill my brows in today, I'm going to use a small angled brush. Now, if you don't have anything like that, you can use any sort of small brush that will work well with your eyebrows. It's completely up to you. I prefer to use a small angled brush. It just makes it more precise. For filling in my eyebrows today, I'm going to use the Essence Eyebrow Stylist Set. So it has two different colors. So it has a dark brown and like a light brown. I'm going to be using the dark brown today, and I'm just going to be popping a little bit of that product on my brush, tapping off the excess. We don't want too much on there. And then what I'm going to be doing is following the natural shape of my eyebrow, but I'm only going to be filling it in very lightly. So I'm just going to start at the very top, and then I'm just going to go along my eyebrow, just doing short little strokes. For the underneath of my brow, I'm just going to draw a straight line across and then push it up. This is so there's no harsh line or anything like that. Now, filling in the front of your brow, so this part right here, I'm going to make sure I only have a tiny bit of product on the brush, so I'm going to wipe off a lot of the excess. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start flicking upwards, and this just creates that really natural front of your brow, not so boxed in and looks really fake. I'm just pushing it upwards, just making it nice and natural, and then connecting it with the top just by pushing it along. So now that I've filled in my brows, I'm now going to set them. This is something you don't have to do, but for those who really want their eyebrow products to stay in place, especially if you're using one that isn't that great on staying on, we can set our eyebrows with an eyebrow gel. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to very gently run some of this eyebrow mascara through my eyebrows and just make sure that the hairs are sitting properly. Okay, so I'm going to move on to eyeshadow now, and I'm going to keep it extremely basic. And for today, I'm going to be using the Shan XO eyeshadow palette from BH Cosmetics. So on the front side of the eyeshadow palette, it has all of the eyeshadows right here. And then when you flip it around to the other side, it has some lipsticks. So this is perfect for traveling and definitely one of my favorites. When it comes to eyeshadow and blending, especially when you're starting out, a really good blending brush is a good way to go. This one I have here is from Morphe, and it's one of my favorites. So as you can see, it's just really, really fluffy. It buffs it out really well as well. So if you're not the greatest, you can always count on a blending brush. So the first color that I'm going to be taking today is this yellowy shade. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up a little bit of the color. So we're just going to start from the outer corner of your eye, and then we're going to brush the eyeshadow brush to the inner corner. And then we're going to go back and forth like a windshield wiper on a car. So we're just going to go back and forth, blending this into the crease of our eye. When you start to come back here, we're going to start doing circular motions, and this is going to buff out the side of the eyeshadow. I'm going to pick up a little bit more product and intensify the color with the exact same actions that I was doing before. The next color that I'm going to take now is this terracotta color, and I'm just going to pick up a little bit of this one as well with the same brush. I'm going to tap off the excess, and then what I'm going to do now is place that a little bit lower than the first color. So I'm going to focus it on my outer V, which is this region right here. I'm going to pat that on very gently, and then I'm going to start buffing it through. When I come back to my outer V, I'm just going to do little circular motions, making sure I buff out that outer edge as well. So the reason why I first went in with that yellow color, that is called a transition color. So basically a transition color helps you blend out darker colors. So I'm going from lighter to darker. The lighter color will help you blend out and buff out those much harsher colors, and it just makes blending eyeshadows a little bit easier. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take another blending brush. It's literally the exact same. There is no difference between it, and it is completely clean. So there is nothing on this brush. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to help buff out the edges of all the eyeshadows. Sometimes taking a clean blending brush with nothing on it really helps you blend out all those colors if you're struggling. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take a really small little brush now. So this is what it looks like right here. It's only very tiny for applying lid colors. So just in this region here, you can use any sort of brush you want. The most common brush is a flat shader brush. So you might have something very similar to this right here. And the color that I'm going to be applying to my lid today is this really pretty shimmery champagne color. So I'm just going to pick some of that up, and then I'm just going to very gently swipe that on my lid area. I'm also going to use that exact same color on my inner corner, just for that nice highlighted effect, and also along my brow bone. Okay, so taking a more defined blending brush, I'm going to pick up that exact same red shade, whoop, this one right here, and then I'm going to blend that underneath my lower lash line. Just a little bit, and I'm just going to run it from inner corner to outer corner, meeting up with that eyeshadow that's on top. Okay, so moving on to eyeliner, the one that I am using today is the Maybelline Master Precise Liner. So what I'm going to do today is I'm not going to do a wing, I'm just going to do a thin line straight across my top lash line. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start from the inner corner, and I'm just going to do that tiny little line. I'm going to move across, and I'm keeping this as close as I can to my lower lash line. I'm not having the pen directly at me, I'm having it on its side. I'm just going to dot it along basically and drag it at the same time, just a tiny bit. Okay, so I'm going to move on to my mascara now. So the mascara that I have is the Revlon Super Length Mascara. When we are applying our mascara, we want to make sure we get to the very root of our lashes, so getting quite close. If you're not a fan of that or you're a little bit too afraid, just brush the tips, just like this, just a tiny bit, just to add a little bit of extra length and to make them a bit more black. Okay, so moving back onto the face, we're gonna add some color into it now. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to bronze my skin. Okay, so when it comes to bronzing, you can take two different types of brushes. One of my favorites is a really fluffy brush like this one right here, or this one here, which is just an angled brush. It's completely up to you. I'm going to pick up some of my bronzer and just swirl it around in the pan, tap some of the excess off so there's not too much. And I'm going to go around where my cheekbones are and also just around the apples of my cheeks. So I'm going to start at my hairline. And I'm just going to start brushing in that kind of downward motion, focusing and following where your jawline, your cheekbone is, sorry. When you're doing bronzing, you want to make sure that you're not dragging it down here. When you're blending it, you're blending upwards. I'm then just going to take a little bit more product and I'm going to go down around this area and along my jawline. I'm then just going to take a little bit on my forehead, so around my temples and up around my forehead. Okay, so moving on to blush now. This is just to add that pretty pink color back into your skin. I'm going to go in with the NYX powder blush, and this one is in the shade Dusty Rose. And what I'm going to do is that angled brush that I showed you guys before, I'm going to use that for my blush today. So I'm just going to pat into the blush pan, picking up some product, tap off the excess. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to focus around the apples of my cheeks. I'm going to dot some of it there, and then I'm going to very gently brush it backwards. You can now see that it's added a lot of extra color to my skin, and now I've got a little bit of extra dimension going on and I don't look so flat. Okay, so I'm going to go in with highlighter now. So basically what highlighter does is it just adds that beautiful glow to your face. Now when you're choosing a brush for a highlighter, you want to choose something quite small. So this is the one that I have here. It is just a round defined brush. The brushes that I was using before on my eyes, so the blending brushes, you can also use one of them as well if you like, but using a small brush is definitely the best way to go. Okay, so I'm just going to be picking up this pretty shade in the middle. This is just like a champagne-y kind of color. I'm going to tap off the excess and I'm going to apply the highlighter to the highest points of my cheekbones. So I'm just going to pat some of that on in this area. And you can see how I've now got a really nice glow. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do a little bit of circular motions just to blend in with all the other products that I've put on my face. I'm going to bring it up around my eyebrow area, so around my temple. I'm going to put some on the tip of my nose, along the bridge of my nose as well, on the top of my lip, tiny bit on your chin, and then a bit on your forehead. All right, and pretty much last but not least, we're going to go in and choose a lip color now. You can choose any lip color you want. It doesn't have to be what I'm choosing. I'm gonna go for something quite bright and fun today. So on the Shan XO palette, which is just the other side, I'm going to go in with this really beautiful orangey shade. Okay, so this is the lip brush that I'm going to be using today. It is just a flat, long brush. Now you can use an angled brush, the exact same one that I used for filling in my eyebrows. Those ones are really great for getting on the sides, but I have no clean ones at the moment, so I'm just going to be using this one. So what I'm going to do is just brush this on to the center of my lips. Okay, now to finish this whole look off, this is completely optional. You do not have to do this if you do not want to. I'm going to go in with a setting spray. So a setting spray is basically something that locks all of your makeup in, makes it last a whole lot longer. So the one that I'm going to be using today is the Essence Instant Matte, and then I'm just going to spray it all over my face. Okay guys, that is my completed look on the basics for makeup today. I really hope that I made it as easy as I could. I feel like I've never done one of these videos, so it's really difficult to teach people how to do makeup, but I really hope I've helped you guys out today. If I have, please leave a big like on this video and don't forget to subscribe to my channel before you leave because it does mean so much to me. But until next time you guys, I will see you in my next video. Bye!